Welcome to the session called, what is the actual title? It is called State Apprenticeship Expansion, Building Capacity Through Youth Registered Apprenticeships. Today we're going to have with us Kevin Chau from the state of Michigan. He's Apprenticeship Specialist, and Brian Smith, Program Development with the Michigan Career and Technical Institute. I have a few things I'd like to say first before we get going. I have put at the very top of the chat, there's a link to a survey that we would really appreciate if you would fill it out for us after we get done with today's presentation. You know, we say it all the time, but based on what your feedback is how we create our programs and how we select things. So it's really important to us that you fill that out, if you will, please. I've also included Twitter and Facebook handles for any of you people that tweet and do all of that stuff. So they're up at the top also. I'll be monitoring the chat, but Kevin would like to just wait until the end of the presentation to be able to answer questions, and anything he can't answer, in case you were not here, we're going to let Scott answer because Scott is online. So lucky Scott. But anyway, we'd also like to thank our sponsors, and this sponsor for this workshop today is CVS Health. So, you know, without them, we really would not be able to do anything that we're doing here at the conference. And I hope everybody's enjoyed it. I hope you've been able to get in and see some things. We just listened to Paul R. Talley just a little while ago, and he was awesome. Really enjoyed him. So we've had some really good speakers, and we're very, very excited to be bringing this type of conference to everybody. So it's thanks to our sponsors that we're able to do that. So I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin and to Brian, and then I'll close us out when we're ready. So are you good, guys? You ready to go? Okay.
Yes.
All right, I'm signing off.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Well, so hello, everybody. Well, first, I guess I should thank CVS Health for sponsoring this session of ours. And just for that, we're going to try to do our best to increase healthcare occupations in registered apprenticeship. So, all right. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen and presentation. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. Okay. So, for my part of our presentation in partnership with Brian Smith for our Michigan Career Technical Institute is that I'm going to have a discussion on overview of our Youth Apprenticeship Readiness Grants that was recently awarded in July. I'm going to provide some details of it, and you know, that would be kind of like, you know, a starting point of what we're doing, or a broad strategy of our youth registered apprenticeship, you know, solution for the next 4 years. So the first piece is that just some details of the grant itself. So the USDOL Youth Apprenticeship Readiness Grant opportunity was something that was released back in, I think it was like April or March, as a funding opportunity announcement. And the team at Employment and Training worked very hard, as in, you know, working late nights, weekends, and sending out emails at 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. And all of that effort, you know, was great because we were awarded the grants. And Michigan was awarded $4.8 million for expansion of youth registered apprenticeship for 4 years, between July 2020 through June of 2024. Our goal for this grant is to establish, you know, at least 1,024 new registered apprentices. And the focus of the grant will be on individuals that are between but what we're going to really look at emphasis of individuals that are, you know, 16 and 17 that are in the high school environment, so that, you know, that's something that we can, you know, establish in Michigan. So one of the things that when we started the grant process, you know, we looked at like this opportunity, And from our point of view at our agency, there has not been that much, activities statewide related to youth registered apprenticeship. And this is a great opportunity for us to really turbocharge our ability to, create the relationships, partnerships, and structure in place to expand it throughout the entire state. So, so the age range is 16 to 24. Additionally, we want to increase underrepresented populations, as well as increasing non-traditional occupations for this opportunity. So this is a list of the partnerships that worked with us when we were developing our application. Subject matter experts, and obviously folks that will be working with us to implement the grants through a request for proposal process. So our partners from Michigan Department of Education, Office of Career and Technical Education, along with the USDOL Office of Apprenticeship, our sister agency from Vocational Rehab, along with secondary education partners, including intermediate school districts, career education planning districts, and our post-secondary education, employers and organized labor, and of course, our partners from Mission Works agencies.
Kevin?
So
I'm sorry. No one has seen any PowerPoints.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, shoot. Okay. You know what? Okay. Give me 1 second. My apologies. I did not click on the share. I went right into it. So I can back up.
Sure. No. Well, everybody
Sorry
else
about
was.
that. Thank you for letting me know,
to everybody
Michelle.
that put some words in the chat.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So I'm going to back up a little bit. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, everybody can see the screen now?
Yes, I can see it. So
Yes, Michelle?
I'm assuming that everybody can. Yes, they're saying yes. Good job.
Cool. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, thanks. Yep. So I'm just going to back up. I'll just go back to some of the pages previously. So shared earlier, I guess verbally, but now you can see it visually. Our youth apprenticeship grant was awarded back in July of 2020. And we were awarded $4.8 million for a 4-year grant, 1,024 new registered apprentices. And the age range of participants and new apprentices would be from 16 to 24, along with increasing underrepresented populations and increasing non-traditional occupations. And so one of the things is that, having Brian from MCTI to present is great, because in our partnership at MCTI, they will help support establishing 124 apprentices in the next 4 years. So that is, that's really fabulous, because obviously, they're subject matter experts in youth registered apprentices and apprenticeship. And so partnering with MCTI is obviously a very, great strategic approach for us. So shared earlier, the partnerships that we have is, with our subject matter experts from Office of Career and Technical Education, our federal partners at the USDOL Office of Apprenticeship, and our sister agency at LEO with the Vocational Rehab, and then our secondary education partners with the intermediate school districts and career education planning districts, along with post-secondary, and of course our employers and organized labor, and then certainly with Mission Works agencies. So just talking a little bit about the innovative strategies that we have for our grant work plan. So this is a couple things that Scott Yetley did mention yesterday during the launch discussion, is that a part of this is developing the statewide level apprenticeship advisory board. This is going to be, something for us is like, creating something that's in place that will, talk about longevity, sustainability, specifically in, the apprenticeship activities that we're doing, for youth registered apprenticeship, with veterans, with all different areas. So a lot of the activities that we're going to have is really going to be implemented at the community, local, regional level. And so it's really supporting the development of the regional implementation consortia. And the list of folks for this particular grant, the three that you see here for secondary education, mission works agencies, and employers and organized labor, these entities are folks that will be considered as required partners with our RFP and our grant process, because here we have secondary education that will be focused on establishing work-based learning coordinator activities, and then admission works agencies providing support for participant support along with administrative activities, and then obviously supporting employers and organized labor to influence to hire youth registered apprentices. And then the other piece is the development of the Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness Certificate, the MARC, that was mentioned from Scott as well. So the MARC is going to be something that we believe that will help to will encourage, but to hopefully demonstrate the individual or participant is ready to transition into a registered apprenticeship program. So these are some of the things that is going to be part of our youth apprenticeship grant approach. And then a couple other things is that the grant that we have, it will employer on-the-job learning or related instruction reimbursement incentives. And, so this is really helping the employer to really encourage them that, youth registered apprenticeship could be a very, very valuable solution for them, but also helping them to mitigate some of the, onboarding costs for their new apprentices. And then the other area is the support of braided funding opportunities. So with the, funding opportunity announcement and along with our grant agreements, USDOL is really focused on the ability to do braided funding. And that was something that Evelyn shared yesterday and as examples. And so here, looking at what are the other type of funding opportunities that can be braided with this grant, examples include, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act Youth Program, nonprofit grant programs, like, for example, United Way, or other types of, community nonprofit grants. And then even with the USDOL apprenticeship grant programs. So in Michigan right now, we have four ongoing USDOL grants. And that's really good news, because obviously USDOL see the return on investments when awarded. So with that, we can also braid some of those grant funds to help support the activities that we have here. And then lastly, it's a request for proposal that we're going to release by the end of this year. So the request for proposal has some of the components that I just described of required partners and recommended partners and so forth. But our timeline is that we're going to have this ready to go by the end of the year, and then helping support the regional implementation consortia. So hopefully when we do release it, that you'll take a look at it, and then hopefully you'll take the chance to apply. All right. So last, this is just my contact information, but let me see here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to, okay. So right now I'm going to transition it over to Brian Smith so he can talk more about his activities that is going on over at MCTI. All right. So Brian, I am going to bring up your presentation. All right. Okay. All right, Brian, let me know when to move.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm at Michigan Career and Technical Institute. I've been working at the school for 20 years. We are the original vocational technical training center for the state of Michigan. For over 75 years, we've been delivering training, hands-on training focused there, starting as a veterans vocational school in 1944. We simulate the work environment, we use the mentorship approach to training, and we engage students with hands-on project-based learning. All of this ties right into the type of training that apprenticeship brings. We specialize in serving people with disabilities and multiple barriers to employment. What that comes down to is, being creative and alternative thinking. Our community-based programs we've been developed now within the last decade, they impact the ALICE population. And that is the population that's going to make a difference in the governor's request for 60 by 30. Okay, so registered apprenticeships, they are employer-driven training models. It is the time-honored mentorship approach to learning a craft skill. The employer drives it. At MCTI, being a vocational technical training facility, the employer helps drive our curriculum. So apprenticeships begin and end with the employer. It is proven. It's 80% hands-on training with the employer. There's 20% academic. It's called the related technical instruction. And here's an interesting statistic. We can thank our partners in skilled trades and the unions for making this the time-honored mentorship approach to training. They are the ones that started it many years ago. You can go back into the history archives and find it centuries ago. But the new apprenticeship programs right now, 93% are non-union. That's important to know because many independent business people think that apprenticeships are union. The growth is in non-union. Okay, so employers, the benefits is to recruit and retain a highly skilled workforce. These are the things we found that the employers are looking for, to find a pipeline or expand the pipeline. Qualified and capable employees, lower cost of recruitment. For people moving from job to job, and the training costs of that are astronomical. Close the skills gaps and increase productivity. 20 years ago, I came to MCTI to create the Step Up program. It was a pre-vocational program for students that were not able to get into a custom cabinet making or an automotive technology program because the skills gap was too wide. Well, here we are 2 decades later, and it's still an issue. It's nice when you can close those skill gaps with employer specifications. Remember, the employer drives it. You can also upskill quality workers, certainly people that are management has an eye on for future and long-term growth and career path. So it piques apprenticeship interest too, the actual worker, the young apprentice. The best thing about it is you earn a paycheck while learning. Much different than what we've been used to. We've been ingrained for several decades that everybody goes and gets a 4-year college degree. And it is a different mindset. There are rewards for skill gains. Typically, they're jobs that pay higher wages, or as I'll explain in one of our examples, how you may affect a minimum wage in a community. Eliminating the barriers. This is the beauty of apprenticeship. Since the employer helps you write the standards for it, they help establish the barriers. So people coming in, learning and being promoted. The barriers can be managed and or eliminated. Certainly as a career path in the industry to become a professional. Recognized nationally, portable, stackable credentials. So the keys to success here, it really is a relationship. Why do apprenticeships work? You may recall, maybe you know someone in your family that spent 30 years with a company, retired with a gold watch, or maybe even longer, because there was a relationship between the employer and the employee. That is a key to success. Employers are investing in their employees. They're training and for their advancement. They're encouraging a mentorship approach to learning. Find the person who's the professional in the shop to train the new person coming in. One-on-one skills, hands-on training. Employees become committed. They see pay increases. There is a requirement in an apprenticeship to define a career path and to show a pay increase. It's written. It's a contractual type of an agreement. Here's the most exciting piece, is the United States Department of Labor offers what's called a School to Registered Apprentice program. You can start at the age of 16. The first thing that we ran into many years ago was go to the employers and they say, oh, I cannot have a 16-year-old in my shop. It's safety and my OSHA. And you can just stop right there, because as registered with the United States Department of Labor, there are those protections for workers that may be at what they would consider under 18. So insurance liabilities are not an issue. Okay. So the beauty also of apprenticeships, I mentioned, barriers can be controlled. It increases access. We want to open the doors for people that are willing to start working. The non-traditional approach to thinking, it is a place and train model. We do both at MCTI, but sometimes have to bend our thoughts to, okay, now we're place and train. It's not always come to the school or go to the training facility, complete a specific amount of time and then go to work. No, it's place and train. The underrepresented populations are served well, and non-degreed individuals. These are our large percentage of potential employees. We'll have the opportunity to upskill and advance this ALICE population. The ALICE population, that is your working poor, right? They are the young couple with 2 kids and working minimum wage jobs just to pay the bills. We want to upscale that population. Certainly individuals with disabilities and special education students, we are thrilled to be part of this grant and deliver 124 apprentices in 4 years. And we will use our partners in transition. And we've started that in certain areas. So now to have some funding behind it, we have excitement. And I mentioned how barriers are managed. So as a sponsor or intermediary, so that's what we do. That's what you will do if you're not already doing it. It is your work with the apprenticeship. You are going to manage it for the employers. The employers are going to love everything about this, but they aren't going to love it if you say, hey, I've got a bunch of administrative work for you to do. And by the way, you're going to have to learn how to log into their system and you're going to have to track everybody. No, that's your work. That's my work. It's the people designated to implement apprenticeships at your facility. And some simple DOL guidelines. It is a Department of Labor. The guidelines are clear. Develop and maintain and manage the standards, the related records, you implement program steps, you complete audits. You define and deliver work processes and related technical instructions. I'm going to get to those in detail. You're going to become very familiar with those. You'll see these acronyms, WP and RTI. And then, of course, maintain the work hours, check off the competencies, and proof of required wage increases. This requires visits. This requires meeting with the employer, getting into the shop, and having established relationships with HR and management. Okay, so there's a whole set of standards under the sponsor and intermediary, but the item that you're going to be most familiar with in executing these with employers is this Appendix A. Again, funny that we would be living in an appendix, but you will. It is your working document with the employers. You will have to establish work processes. It's not that complicated. In fact, when you tell the employers, it is just simply your tasks on the job that you have for your employees. You must have a task list, and that's it. You turn that into a competency checklist. You could have competency-based, hour-based, or hybrid. Related technical instruction, that's your 20%. Now, of the work processes I just mentioned, that's your 80%. So the RTI, 20% academic. Best if you can align curriculum with a national certification. Manufacturing training program aligns with the Manufacturer Skills Institute. It's one of 16 curriculums approved by the National Manufacturers Association. So that's nice when you can do that, because you can offer a secondary certification. Look everywhere to deliver your RTI. Post-secondary institutions, community-based education, adult educations. Employers can train on site, and certainly online management systems. We have seen a tremendous growth in those for obvious reasons, but even companies that were in online before are taking things to the next level in terms of virtual and augmented. Okay, I'm going to give some examples of how we are implementing apprenticeships out of Michigan Career and Technical Institute. Some are place and train. Some are reverse, train and place. Some are emerging opportunities. So we have a certified nurse assistant registered apprentice program that was developed with a healthcare consortium in southern Michigan, basically south of the I-96 corridor from east to west. The idea here, the standards were developed as place and train. So to reach certified nurse assistant, which a lot of us may think is a starting point, this allows for us to maybe reach even a wider population that might not be able to start at a certified nurse assistant, and they start work immediately as a universal care worker. They are paid, and then as people that know how certified nurse assistant training goes, this is a lot of Zoom classes right now. The first step in the process, along with the wage increase, is the nurse aid. There's a prometric test for that in the state of Michigan. So in its advancement for the career ladder as well as the wage. And then the final step is the certified nurse assistant. Again, the prometric test for the state of Michigan along with the wage increase, all done with the same employer, starting with somebody who has a willingness to work. Food processing technician registered apprentice. This is an interesting twist. So a little bit, I'm sure everybody knows this, right? Our top 3 industries in the state of Michigan are tourism, manufacturing, and agriculture. So tourism aside, you have manufacturing and agriculture. That translates to food processing. In fact, there are pockets of the state where there are several food processors within a 30-mile radius of each other simply because of the way the agriculture grows. So we worked with, and this has been going on for a number of years, an industry-led collaborative of 5 food processors in a consortium. When you can take this approach, it is probably the best way because you're going to take the widest swath, right? You're going to have an industry collaborative with many employers. We thought it would be, if you know about apprenticeships, the United States Department of Labor has, I think, over 1,100 apprenticeships right now, sort of in the can. You can pick them out and run with them. So when we started the whole process, we, contacted the Department of Labor. How about your food processing technician? We don't have one anywhere in the United States. And that was interesting. But the good news is you can create one. And this is something that you may find yourself doing quite a bit because employers love the custom program. Now, what did we do to create it? Well, we went to the DOL. It's a manufacturing process, but it's with food. So there is the industrial manufacturing technician. I have it as IMT on here in the Department of Labor. We were able to pull that out and start. It was a base for us. It had standards. It had work processes. It had related technical instruction. And we built from there. Keep in mind, with 5 employers doing this, we developed standards of agreements and common work processes. Industry-specific related technical instruction. The whole time we were there, MCTI, being a training facility, had many options, but what the consortium wanted was a training program, an international food processing training program that the industry is well aware of from Canada, is steps ahead of us. And in the United States, we do a great job with food, with chef coats and kitchens, but not necessarily food when you have your hard hat on and you're in a facility. So the Canadians were ahead of us on that, and the employer pointed us in that direction. We forged and bonded a relationship. It was a government agency, and that is their industry-specific RTI. The ultimate goal here is to provide a transition youth program, school to registered apprentice. The particular area I'm talking about, you can go through some of the high schools and see empty rooms. And I saw this myself, and it was explained to me, well, that used to be our machine technology training program, or that used to be our cabinet making program. These are empty rooms because we know what happened in CTE, right? With the focus on 4-year degrees, a lot of high schools, backed out. This is the answer for getting back into CTE, is to run with the school to registered apprentice program. Start them at 16. They can do related technical instruction while they're in school, and guess what? Work at 16 part-time, making a wage. So that is the ultimate goal. And then, of course, to start the pilot, to make sure it was what everybody thought it would be. We started with some incumbent employees at one of the largest in the area, and it allowed them to identify a growth plan and leadership opportunities for these existing employees. Very exciting. It was a lot of work, but it's well worth it. Once that, I'm moved my head, but I'll still tell. Once that gets pilot approved and launched, it'll be available in the United States to anybody, food processing technician now. Okay, the pre-apprentice, the next screen, the pre-apprentice certification program from PACT. You know, your partners are going to help you immensely. Keep your eyes and ears peeled to your partners. This one is a traditional train in place. And I'll tell you a little history on this. We've all been with employers, and I've been with builders, and they say, bring me anybody that wants to work. If they fog a mirror, bring them. We want them. And we started to do that, and they said, oh, wait just a minute. How about somebody that can read a ruler, they understand what the tools are, and they can walk onto the shop site then, or the construction site. The partners at the Home Builders Institute, which has forged a relationship with the United States Department of Labor, and created a pre-apprentice certificate program in construction. It's 160 hours. It's for general laborer. In fact, this is only one of 3 pre-apprentices approved by the United States Department of Labor. It is start somebody from square one. You don't know how to read a ruler, but you want to build a house and swing a hammer, come on in. There's work readiness skills and personal skills wrapped around it. They understand about tools and application. The most important thing is it is a pathway to the apprenticeship. And in the construction industry, you need an on-ramp. And there are 2 ways that they can go. Right away, a residential carpenter is a 2-year. And then, of course, you can get into any of the skilled trades, because remember, you're training for a general laborer, general tool use. Just so you know, this particular program, before it was adopted by the USDOL and the HBI, it is the old youth build program. So those of you that have been around in workforce development for a number of years, you may remember the youth build program. And that was the genesis of PACT. And so it is certainly intended for the youth. In fact, it is in high schools. I've seen it in community-based programs and certainly in technical schools. It's an excellent program, and it's your on-ramp into the industry. Okay, this is a brand new idea. It's newly approved at the Department of Labor, February 2020. We have an initial I believe three programs at MCTI have been there 76 years. One of them is culinary. And one of our largest of training programs of interest, one of our largest success in placement. There is an opportunity for an apprenticeship path in culinary. The biggest thing about culinary, and we hear it all along, and I know there's people right now shaking their head going, the wage is minimum wage. They start low. You have to find alternative ways of thinking and move off that. And this particular 6-month apprenticeship approved by the USDOL with the National Restaurant Association and the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. Again, these are partners that have been with us in our Occupational Advisory Council for years. They are innovating, and it is a fast track. It is a place and train. Start working right away as a utility worker. Okay, that could be fancy for dishwasher, but you get on the floor and you start working. But you work your way up to cook's helper, because remember, there has to be advancement in wage and responsibility. And while they're doing the cook's helper, they are also working on the related technical instruction for the line cook and the USDOL registered apprentice. So this is an emerging opportunity. It's fresh. It was just approved right before everybody shut down. You can see the date on that. So there's a lot of anxious people ready to get started on this. We have some partners in Livingston County, in Saginaw, and of course in Kalamazoo, or near our base. Here is another emerging opportunity. Some of the details behind it. Again, very similar situation in ECourse. If you're familiar with the area, closed a lot of their career and technical education training, and one of them was auto years ago. So there's a foundation, actually, local foundations, very interested in bringing this back, and they're willing to fund bringing some of the equipment, because as far as auto service tech goes, it's the equipment's very costly. That's taken care of. They want to bring it back into the school, and so there's a school to registered apprentice emerging opportunity here we're working with through MRS, and again, offer pre-apprentice curriculum online with youth at the age of 16. So there's where a school that has gotten rid of CTE can bring it back in. And then also the 16-year-old starts as a part-time entry-level employee as a shop helper. So you're working and learning. It transitions to the registered apprentice program at 18. Anytime any school to registered apprentice program aligns with an apprentice program, you get credit for previous work. So we used to call it clepping out years ago. They can clep into the registered apprentice program at 18. And there's a couple key partners in Southeast Michigan on this, and that's super important. I can't emphasize that enough. They've worked, a big partner has customized related technical instruction. So many employers you'll find have that. And I'm going to close with this last screen. I can't tell you how important the networking is in here. And everything that we've done, it's been an outreach and a partnership. We haven't done anything, I don't think, solely at all. Find the partners. You'll be able to achieve common goals, share costs, which are great, and then create impact. I haven't listed all of them here. You know, I thought I had everybody, but United Way, of course, has been a big partner. The Local Initiative Services Collaborative, LISC, has been big. All the community action. There's a partner that is down the street, Department of Health and Human Services. They have 36 offices throughout Michigan. They're your Head Start people. Get with them, and I will nod to the community action of Allegan County, who's been very progressive in our work with them. Foundation scholarships and promises. I'll give a nod to the Kalamazoo Promise, who's working with us in Kalamazoo, but there are other promises. Employer resource networks, key contact points. These could well already be established, and it's just a matter of you finding your way there. Youth programs and adult education, common goals there. They used to call them college access networks. Many of them are changing them to career access networks now, understanding that it's not just college. Contact with those. And then, of course, your transition coordinators, which are your special education counselors, your superintendents and principals, and any sort of counselor, frontline contact with the student. So it's pretty windy. I appreciate your patience in listening, but we're awful excited. And I know you will be too. We're going to be given the charge to take this statewide, and this is going to drive our state. This is going to be very exciting to be the next 4 years of we're fastening our seatbelts, Kevin and Scott, and we're ready to roll. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited too, because I really think that, with the support from USDOL and really the relationships and structure we have in place from federal, state to local, we're really prime, and having some opportunity to talk with folks that are from secondary education that are members of META. They're like, hey, how can we start establishing or expanding youth registered apprenticeship? And so, having this grant opportunity, and for example, a best practice at MCTI, along with our partners at, at JAMA, I think that we can develop materials that can help support other communities in the state of Michigan to adopt it in their area. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have some questions. If you'd like to address those now, I can go through what I've received in the chat. I'm not sure which one of you would like to answer them or who they're best suited for, but I'm going to read them for you. First one is, what will be the maximum incentive per newly registered apprentice?
Okay, so if that's so I think that that's related to the grants. So right now well, I mean, let me back up. So USDOL provides a guidance that a maximum amount for any apprentice with a USDOL grant is at $1,000 from that one particular grant. We for the youth registered apprenticeship grants, that still applies to us, but we're still developing the RFP for it that provides all of the criteria of the funding amount that will support, like, for example, employer training reimbursements, or obviously other costs such as outreach and participant support and things like that. So that's gonna be determined once the RFP is released.
Okay, are there multiple RFPs coming out? And it sounds like they thought that early fall 2020 is what they had heard.
Yep. So fall 2020. Technically winter doesn't start. First day of winter is in December. A couple months to get the RFP together. Actually, first day of fall is next week. So until that kind of gets into place, where our timeline is still on schedule. Well, we will have 2 RFPs, or let me step back. We have 2 separate grants, and so it's still being internally discussed if it's going to be one RFP for each of the grants, because the 2 grants that we were recently awarded is a youth apprenticeship readiness grant, and then also the state apprenticeship expansion innovation grant. So those are 2 separate grants, but internally we're looking at if we're going to do one RFP or we have it separate, so it's much cleaner, because we have separate federal project officers at the federal level. So by having it separate, then it's much more straightforward, or we have it combined. That is still being in development. So yeah.
Okay, how can we get information on the Healthcare Consortium program, and who would we contact?
Sure. I'm sorry, I had my microphone off. It's an alliance with the two owners of 2 adult care facilities, and they have several facilities across the state. We work with the Apprenticeship Institute out of Southeast Michigan as a partnership with them. So I can get you some details about that. The training occurs mostly through Zoom, but they do meet at Hutchinson Middle School, if you know where that is, in Detroit. And that's sort of their base for any sort of training in RTI, and then they're working out in the facilities. So you could contact me. I could put you in contact with our partner there.
Okay, is the 6-month Culinary RA work process available to share?
Yeah, we just received those. I could share those with you. I don't know if my email, I guess it's in my profiles. Send me your contact information, and I will share that, because that is public now. The National Association became affiliated as a sponsor in 2017 with the USDOL, and then John Short, if you're familiar, works out of Washington, D.C. from England, came over, and of course, very familiar with apprenticeships in Europe, much more than we are. Said, let's put this together. So the stamp on it, I think, was February 12th, 2020. I'd be happy to share that.
Okay. How can we get contact information for the ECourse program?
Yeah, right now that's what we call an emerging opportunity. It's not running, but it's in discussion because we have a funder and we have a school. MRS, Michigan Rehabilitation Services, our primary partner, also in the Labor and Economic Opportunity Department, is driving that. So again, if you want to know more about that, I'll put you in contact with our MRS out of Southeast Michigan that's driving that. You can email me, that'd be fine. Is my email in the profile, or should I type that? I can type that in.
Right. Why don't you do that for me, please? And what we can do also is I can send you a list of these questions to at least be sure that we answer them and get them back to the people.
Okay.
Does that help?
There's my email.
Okay.
In the chat box.
Sure. Where can you find these apprenticeships like the auto service tech?
So there is a contact. Ours happens to be Tiffany Clausen, the United States Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship has, can't think of their title, but they're your contact, your liaison point in the field. I think there's 3 or 4 in the state of Michigan, sort of, the northern, western, eastern, that sort of thing. So they can help you if you, are searching for whatever apprenticeship might be available. And then also, I think, Kevin, does MITA have links to apprenticeships that are currently written?
Yeah, so what you just referenced there, Brian, is the USDOL apprenticeship training representatives.
Yes.
And so those folks can help provide some information. But also, I would suggest to reach out to the Mission Works Agency Apprenticeship Success Coordinators. They're our subject matter experts through the 16 MWAs, and they could also be a very valuable resource, providing both support along with participants. But at MITA, I don't believe they have information of available apprenticeship opportunities. Another resource to consider is the Pure Michigan Talent Connect, where employers share their apprenticeship vacancies or opportunities that are available. One thing that we are going to improve as part of our grant deliverables from the State Apprenticeship Expansion Innovation Grant the next 3 years is to create a platform that will be able to let the public know of the available apprenticeship opportunities. So that's something that's that we're working on. And then obviously from USDOL, the apprenticeship.gov sites, they're also making that happen as well. But from a practical sense and from experience, we know that employers they usually have vacancies that are available, and it's not being shared publicly. So that is something that we're going to try to improve to let them know that there's a platform that you can have your vacancies available, and that can be shared amongst everybody. So that is something that we're obviously as we move.
Thank you. How can we start this in our school districts today, and what are some first steps to connect schools and employers together?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Michelle?
Absolutely. How can we start this in our school districts today, and what are some first steps to connect schools and employers together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question, because you can be charged up with ideas and think it's great, and then sort of get set back. Let me tell you what happened to us. So we created a specialized program for food processing technician. Had a great idea, saw opportunities, had support. in the community and in the school district and the but you know, just like anybody else who has a bottom line, there has to be demand. And so no one's ready to commit to a program, or at least they weren't at the time until there was demand. So the approach that has to be taken really is through the employer, and build the demand there. And so that was the approach that's taken. And it, you know, it feels like a grassroots effort when you're doing it, because it really is, because you're trying to build groundswell and demand and show that, you know, there will be students and that sort of thing. So it does start with the employer. Employers do want to reach into the schools, if it's not necessarily for a formalized program right now, at least to come in and share, you know, provide students with exposure. That's a great way to get in, but it has to be with the superintendent and the principals. That's where we started, and we had to connect them with the employers. Sometimes physically, you know, set up the appointment or the meeting.
Okay, that looks like that's all the questions. Carrie, thank you, Sutton, had put a list or a link to the list of apprenticeship success coordinators. So check your chat. You can have that that link right there. So that would be that's a nice resource for you. Kevin has shared his contact information. Brian has shared his contact information. I will share. It looks like Greg asked about the ECourse program. So Brian, you can get back with me on that, and I can share that with Greg.
Okay, great.
So is there anything else before we say goodbye? Thank you.
All of that, that's
Brian.
fine. Yeah, thank you everybody for it. And I know that, you know, there's a lot of excitement on the opportunity, and certainly we want to be able to deliver the RFP soon, so that, you know, we can keep moving forward.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, everybody have a great afternoon, and we hope to see you back here tomorrow for our final day of conference. And we just thank everybody for being a part of this. Have a great evening.
Great. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.